Good evening, everybody, and welcome to Charlton Live, sponsored by PSF Steel Limited. My name is Louis Mendes. This is the big match preview ahead of the playoff semi-final first leg at Wycombe on Sunday. It's finally here. Right, joining me to look ahead to that game. First up top right, Mr. Benji Cloak. How you doing, Ben?
Oh, I'm good, mate. When you said that, the hairs went up on the back of my neck. Not felt like that, actually. I'm quite excited going into the game, but I've kind of thought, oh, yeah, crunch time.
Oh, yes. We've been waiting all season for this. This is what it all comes down to. Massive, massive game at Adams Park. Hope that's doing that for you, Ben. And also, bottom of the screen there is Joe Puddyfoot. How you doing, Joe?
Yeah, really good. I was only ever interested in Miss Playoffs. Miss Automatics was just a dalliance, a passing dalliance. So I'm pleased to have committed my future to Miss Playoffs for the next couple of weeks anyway.
Lovely stuff. So on tonight's show, then, we will, of course, be looking ahead to the playoff semi-final first leg. The Addicts travelling to Wycombe Wanderers on Sunday evening for the first leg. Second leg, of course, will be at the Valley next Thursday. So a week tonight, oh crikey, a week tonight we'll know if we're going to Wembley or not. But we may well have a good idea after Sunday. Who knows how Sunday's going to go. On tonight's show, we will hear from the Addicts boss, Nathan Jones, ahead of the game. We'll discuss how we're feeling. We'll discuss team news. We'll have a look back at our other games against Wycombe so far this season. Second half of the show, we've got James Richens from the Bucks Free Press going to tell us all about our opponents for this weekend. We know them well. Of course, it's only a couple of weeks since we played them at Adams Park and won 4-0. And then we'll hear from Jones again as we give this tie the big build-up that it deserves. Want to hear from you guys as well. Evening to everybody joining us in the chat ahead of this momentous playoff tie. Gary's in there saying, can't wait till Sunday. Sam saying, the same. All Hell Let Loose is asking what's happening on Sunday. Well, we'll fill you in hopefully between now and the end of the show. All Hell Let Loose, so you're up to speed. Dave says, I think I've bitten my nails more than Jones. Evening to Brad as well, who's in there joining us from West Devon. Alan's in there. Joseph Dudley. Luke, there's loads of you in there. We want to know how you're feeling ahead of the playoff tie with Wycombe Wanderers. Are the nerves starting to kick in? Are you feeling confident? This is a side we've beaten quite recently. I am getting a little bit carried away in that front as well. So let us know how you're feeling. You can email us, studio@charltonlive.co.uk. You can tweet us at Charlton Live, or you can add a live comment in the YouTube page. Let us know your thoughts ahead of the game at Adams Park on Sunday evening. Now, Ben, I listened back over the last couple of days to a preview show that me and Tom Walling did before the first leg against Doncaster. And what came up as a recurring theme was nerves. And even then, we were favourites in that tie. But no, I couldn't believe how nervous we were feeling. I don't feel like that this time around, which in a way is worrying me. I'm going in with a level of confidence this time. I mean, how are you feeling going into this tie? Because ask anyone else, and we are the big favourites for this semi-final at least.
Yeah, I think I'm just excited mainly. I don't think I'll be feeling like this next Thursday, obviously, depending on the result on Sunday. But I just feel really excited and just so pleased that we're in this position. And just the crowd on Saturday. I know I was listening to the Charlton preview, playoff preview, and Alan Kirbsley just said on there, he was like, I cannot remember for years turning up here and the place was just buzzing. There were so many people there. You had the outside fan zone and the place is just buzzing at the moment. So I thought it was really important that we won on Saturday just to get that buzz back. And obviously with some good goals and you get some more encouragement and confidence in the players after a loss. And I just feel like really excited going into it. And I think, if we to read a bit too much into it, you can see the Wycombe fans not looking forward to it because of the run they've been on and obviously losing their manager and not liking this manager and the way he's playing at the moment. But you can kind of gain confidence from that. But I just think because of where we've been this season, it's been such a roller coaster. I just feel at this moment excited mainly that we're going into two big games for the first time since 2019. And we've got that air of confidence, haven't we? If I was listening to a few podcasts this week, previewing the playoffs from a neutral point of view, from an EFL professional standpoint, and they're going in saying us and Stockport are the favourites going into it. So, you look at that and you think, we are. We are one of the teams. We've been saying the last few weeks, people would fear playing us. So we should have that confidence about us. But let's, as Nathan said in that big speech he did on Saturday, let's be together, but let's enjoy it and get behind them.
It's a massive game, as we're saying, Joe. Like we're definitely the favourites. How do you see this tie going? Like, do you see us? Do you see us as out and out favourites? I mean, surely Wycombe can't be as poor as they were a couple of weeks ago.
Yeah, I mean, I for my sins listened to the Stockport podcast that they did yesterday, the fans, and they were saying that the air at Wycombe was so negative. All of their fans are like they've blown it. They're despondent, and you're sort of thinking, well, hang on, that's not really the vibe that you want going into playoffs. And it is normally the team, I think, that drops out of those top two towards the end or doesn't quite make the cut that normally struggles then to make it play in the playoffs because they're so sort of downbeat about not having got it over the line. And they were in such a strong position, I think, at times this season that they'll be very gutted about having to potentially have to go and get three more games. But form goes out the window is often said, and it is true in the playoffs. It is a bit of a lottery, and you never really know what is going to happen. You know, a bad decision from a referee, a howler from a defender, a worldie from a striker can completely change the course of those three games, and that's what gets masked over the course of the season. But in 3 one-off games, you can't really get away from that. So I think we should be confident going in because we've got very positive air. They've got a negative atmosphere, and especially if we nick one early doors, or especially if we get a couple in the first half, I think that they'll be quite despondent potentially at the fact that they've got another season to come in League One. So we should be going there with confidence, but it'd be lovely to go there and roll them over 4-0, but it's the playoffs. I just don't see it happening because even the players, if you only got 90 minutes in your head and you're 3-0 up, you think, we'll go for another one. If we ship it, it's only 3-1, we'll still be okay. Whereas if you ship one when you're 3-0 up, right at the end, it's, that is a bit more of a sort of squeaky bum time moment. You're going the other end and 2-0 will take it to extra time. So I'd expect a cautious and cagey game really from both sides. And I just hope that we can come back at least level to home. So I think us at home with a full stadium is going to be a force to be reckoned with in that second leg.
Lovely stuff. Well, let's hear from Nathan Jones ahead of this tie with Wycombe Wanderers. Now, he hasn't done a press day today, but what he has done is during the week, he sat down with the SLP's Richard Corley, who has very kindly let us use some of his audio. So massive thanks to Rich. And as a way of thanking him, anyone on Twitter, if you could now tweet Big Dog Corley, you are a legend at him. Let's get a few of those tweets towards him because he insists that we call him Big Dog Corley. Just to say thank you for letting us use his audio. This is Nathan Jones speaking to Rich ahead of the first leg over at Wycombe on Sunday.
It's the highs and lows. You're going to have good moments, bad moments. That's part and parcel of it, isn't it?
I think it's how you handle it. I think there's it just comes down to it's not a game over one game, but ties can be won and lost in one game. But realistically, you've got to be better than the opposition over a minimum of 180 minutes, and sometimes it takes that.
The Wycombe manager said that the narrative will be that you've won both games against them in the league. He says it will sort of be a bit of extra fuel for them as they go into this. What would you say in response to that? Anything particularly or not?
Listen, it's 2 games. The best team ultimately will come out on top, whoever that is. It doesn't. They can't be any more motivated than we are, because we've worked all year for this. So anything that comes out of Wycombe is Wycombe's business. What we want to do is just concentrate on after 2 legs being the ones that are victorious, and whatever we have to do to that, we're prepared to do.
What's your assessment of them as a team? They've obviously been up there, right in the mix from the word go, haven't they? Pretty much. So
anyone that finishes in with the consistent levels they have, and the 5th in the league, shows that they're a very, very good side. They have really good threats. It'll be a real tough playoff campaign, as it will for the other 2, because there's much of a muchness with all 4, but that's why you're at the business end.
Yeah. In terms of the challenge ahead of you, how would you describe it? I mean, it's an achievable challenge, isn't it? But I suppose all four clubs will feel exactly the same, that this is kind of up there and up for grabs for them.
Look, we're in a wonderful place. All 4 teams in a wonderful place. When they embarked on the season, would all 4 have taken the position they're in now? I think it would have been a brave man to argue, and just considering the quality of teams in the league and so on. We had ambitions to get promoted by whatever way possible. We'd love to have gone automatic, but we probably left it a little bit too late. And then with the injuries we had going into the Wrexham game, that really stifled any hope right at the end. But the 2 most consistent sides have gone up over the full season, because they have been. Then there's 4 teams now that anyone, because they're a bit of a lottery, the playoffs, anything can happen. There can be a red card, it can be something that curtails or derails something. What we have to do is make sure we're just prepared. But we're in a wonderful place. It's a wonderful challenge. And categorically, a year ago, we were all on holidays now. And we had just had our end of season do, and everything was rosy with optimism. Well, that optimism has now come to fruition. Now we have to execute.
There we go. That's Nathan Jones having a chat with Rich ahead of the game with Wycombe Wanderers. I mean, a lot of talk about how the best team will go through over 2 legs, Ben. So what would be the ideal scenario coming out of Sunday is we go there and win 10-0 or something ridiculous. But if we go there and get a draw, I mean that would be probably satisfactory, considering how good we have been at home over the pretty much the whole season. We've lost 2 games at home all season.
Yeah, it's just hard to think of all the different permutations that could happen. I mean, as Tom mentioned, or Nath mentioned on the show on Sunday, all we kept thinking is get an early goal against Doncaster, and we did, and then look at what happened after that. So yeah, it's hard, isn't it, when you just played a team a few weeks ago and thrashed them, and they just look so low after that, and they've not bounced back since. But you just know the quality's there, and you, as Nathan just said there in his press conference, it's the playoffs. Anything can happen. You can have a red card early on in the game, and it could just change things. You could have a bad injury to one of our players. We could look at a team sheet on Sunday at 5:30 and go, "Oh my goodness, Thierry Small's not playing." And then we have to I'm sure we'd be training for it, but then in our heads, we're thinking that's a massive threat in our team not playing. So, yeah, who knows what's going to happen? I think if we look at the evidence from a neutral point of view, because obviously we've got our fans' heads on, and we're thinking back to 2019, and we're thinking back to old playoff campaigns and all that stuff. We are in a really good spell of form. The teams we've lost to have been 2 of the teams that have gone up. We've beat them twice this season. And as we said earlier, they're quite low on confidence at the moment. But you just know that they rested a couple of their key men on Saturday, and Humphreys and Kone in preparation for this. But we didn't give them a sniff last game, did we? Kone especially. Lloyd Jones done a great job on him. So, yeah, it's hard, isn't it? We're trying to give a balanced view, but as Nathan said, I mean, watching the Champions League last night. You kind of felt gutted for Arsenal in that first 20 minutes. They were just all over them, but they didn't score. Will we have a spell like that where you're on top, you don't score? They might have a spell like that. But yeah, I think we've talked about it a few times this season as well, haven't we, in the Wrexham and Birmingham games, where we kind of said maybe a few players weren't up to this big game kind of feeling. With I know Wycombe won't have the atmosphere as a Wrexham or Birmingham, but the pressure's on. So it'll be interesting to see how that goes also.
Yeah, I mean, Sam says, I am slightly nervous ahead of Sunday, regardless of us winning both games, due to the high expectations and the form that we're currently in. I mean, as for us going into this tie with clearly expectations, clearly what happened a few weeks ago at the back of our minds, Germany, does that change anything for us? I mean, I don't. There's been a fair bit of chat about sort of Wycombe's ticket sales and that. I mean, for all that Wycombe have done over the last however many years, and they got up to the Championship and they've done a lot. They're not a massive club. They don't have this fiery expectation of a buoyant crowd behind them at home. They'll their fans who are there support the team and support the team well, but it's not the sort of atmosphere you can get at some other places in League One or in the Championship. Like we will be going there backed by a sold out away end. The noise will all be coming from that away stand, from the Whiff away stand. It feels like everything will be behind the boys. So it's just like we just got to make sure we ride that expectation and don't let it become sort of a millstone around our neck.
Yeah, and I think that with us having such a congregated set of fans, and we know that we make a lot of noise when we travel, it kind of will be a little bit like a neutral game and a home game rather than going away. And I'd be much more fearful going away to Stockport, I think, just in terms of their style of play and the way in which they can beat teams up and stifle and delay and all that kind of stuff. Whereas I don't think Wycombe pose that big a threat. And, selfishly, we would all have chosen this exact set of fixtures. So it's going to be difficult to manage, I think, that expectation. The players, you'd imagine, will be going in feeling very, very confident, and they just have to go and do their jobs properly. They're going to have to go and do the hard yards defending and really apply themselves physically and go and take the game to Wycombe. Because if they go and, assuming that the job's already done, then we're going to be in all sorts of trouble. But the one thing that does strike me is, I was obviously looking at the form as we come into the last 10 games of the season, and both Wycombe and us have had the two hardest run-ins of the four playoff teams. So we've been playing teams in and around us going for playoff contention. I think 7 of their last 8 games for Wycombe were teams either in the top 6 or with a chance of breaking into the top 6. So they've had a long run of some very, very difficult, challenging fixtures, and that's going. They obviously haven't fared particularly well, but it's not like they've been struggling against the lesser teams and they're bang out of form. They've been going toe to toe with some of the better teams in the league, and it doesn't change for them, and it doesn't change for us. Whereas the likes of Stockport and Orient, obviously, they've had easier. Stockport have had by far the easiest run in, and I think they're on sort of cloud 9 and potentially could have a bit of a false confidence coming in that they're going to be able to roll everyone over. But players and the club and everyone feels so positive going into this, and it is very Charlton for us to feel super, super positive and manage to snatch defeat from the jaws of victory. But with the noise, the atmosphere, the confidence, the enthusiasm, if we get our tails up, I think we're going to be a very, very difficult side to contain over the next couple of games.
Well, we have been a difficult side to contain over the last couple of games we've played against Wycombe Wanderers. Let's remind ourselves of what happened in the other occasions in which we've met the Chairboys so far this season.
Wanderers will actually get us underway in their change strip of green and white vertical stripes.
Left foot across is a decent one. Lieben! What a finish from Miles Lieben! Gets across his man and volleys it home. Brilliant ball in the box. And Charlton make the perfect start in this second half. Forward to Lieben, who's onside. Miles Lieben looking to beat low. Lieben, goalkeeper's out of position. Lieben with the low ball. It's brilliant. It's absolutely brilliant from Miles Lieben.
He's going to get booked for that, but go on, son, celebrate, because that is outrageous. Dummies into the box, takes the shot and scores to the left. That's Kone, I beg his pardon. I thought it was Kadura on the left, but it was Kone. He picked it up, cut inside, and then finished beyond Maynard Brewer's left hand. And Wycombe are back in this.
A really good performance from start to finish. You know, these are the top scorers in the league, a real dangerous side, but we limited them to very little today. And then I thought we had most of the big chances, if not all the big chances. Got a little bit hairy at the end because we didn't do something, but you know, we were well worth our victory. And it's a good performance because these are a good side.
The game is now underway. Wycombe go back to the keeper on the left, trying to go past his man. Does so, drills the ball out across. Jones with a shot, and it's in! Jones has connected and given Charlton the lead underneath the crossbar and in. And that's an outstanding start for Charlton.
Ball in the penalty area towards that man. Jones wins the header back across. Comes back to Berry. First time effort. And it's a brilliant strike. Charlton have doubled their lead. And it's a brilliant strike from Luke Berry. Touchdown from Simons. Goes back to Norris. Takes a touch and slips. And Godden touches it. Can Godden score? He can! Charlton get the third. Matty Godden. With the persistence to get to the ball as Norris slipped and Godden stayed on his feet and gets Charlton a valuable third. Small, held up by Leahy. Cuts inside Small. Left-footed cross. Decent looking one. Anderson! Charlton have a fourth! And Nathan Jones runs down the touchline and knee slides as Corey Anderson, the substitute, wins the header beyond Norris. And Charlton have a fourth.
Shell-shocked. They're absolutely shell-shocked.
I just look delighted and proud. I mean, it's some performance to come here to second place and to do what we did under the pressure that we knew, you know, we had to win today, had to win. I thought we were positive from moment one.
So there we go. Two very successful afternoons against Wycombe so far this season, Ben. Isaac just reminding us of the Nathan Jones knee slide. I mean, they won't forget that when we get there on Sunday. And as David said, the atmosphere at Wycombe away was insane from our support that day. I mean, that win against Wycombe at the start of those clips there. So that was on, I think, the 29th of December, so just after Christmas. Easy to forget that was Wycombe's first defeat in 19 games at that point. They lost their first two games of the season against the two that went up automatically in the end, Birmingham and Wrexham. But since then, they went on that unbelievable run, and then we beat them that day with one of our better performances of the season. Obviously, that's when we still had Miles Leaburn, and then no one needs reminding what happened a couple of weeks ago on Easter Monday. I mean, what can we learn about those two games? We've had the upper hand on them so far this season. When they're at, I mean, in both, to be fair, in both games, the Easter Monday game, they just come off the back of a 3-game winning run. We've caught them cold when on paper they're actually on quite good runs as well.
Yeah, I remember that first game. That was our third win in a row. We had the Northampton game, then we beat Cambridge Boxing Day. And then you kind of felt after that Wycombe game, you felt something was happening because, as you said, they hadn't lost in a while. You could tell they were a really well-organised side. You tell why they were up there. And when Leaburn got that first goal, you thought, okay, yeah, well, I don't think we were playing amazing. But then when Leaburn got that second, I mean, that's my favourite goal of the season so far, unless there's some amazing goal in the playoffs. Just the way, the confidence about him to lob the keeper the way he did was just inch perfect. Obviously, that wasn't near post Norris in goal at that point. But, yeah, well, that goal obviously made them bring in near post Norris. So we can thank Miles for that goal. But, yeah, and then he just jumped into the crowd and it just like we felt a buzz. And I honestly felt like, here we go. Like this, we can keep this going. And, yeah, but then you spin that around. Kone was on the bench that day. He came on and scored a great goal. I mean, just you saw him, come on, this air of confidence. I remember Nath bigging him up before the game, going, oh, yeah, I'm scared of Kone. And when he came on and scored that goal, he gone, oof, yeah, this boy's good. And obviously Luton, I remember coming in for him in January and they spurned down the offers. But, yeah, since then, obviously, he's not been firing. But it just goes to show what he can do with a bit of confidence behind him. His confidence is low at the moment, but a striker like that, you give him the ball, you give him the space, the time, he can finish it. So, yeah, I think it goes to show that was a game where we were probably playing a different style of football with Miles up front and a big man, because they're a big team. Their centre-backs are tall. But obviously we got Godden there. He's now a nuisance, as goes to show with that second game where he closed down Norris for the goal. So I think, it goes to show that we've beaten them at two different styles of game. So that can give us confidence. And obviously we'll go on to talk about their problems with losing a couple of players. But I think goes to show confidence from those performances, but we know their threats are there.
What sort of game are you expecting, Joe, on Sunday? I mean, a lot of people were sort of saying in the chat further up, they wonder if Mike Dodds might sort of change a style a little bit because, I was looking at some of their formations. They've got flitted between 3 at the back and 4 at the back by the looks of it. Mike Dodds, I think, has been accused of being a bit defensive-minded, perhaps, since taking over. I mean, you're looking at Kone's not scored in 8 games now, nearly 2 months since his last goal. They're not scoring enough over the last few weeks. I mean, are you expecting a cagey game on Sunday? Are you expecting us to, I don't think we don't tend to deal in cagey games, do we?
No, but this one matters a bit more than the average one. So there's always going to be that tendency and sort of fear in the back of the mind, I think, at some level. And if I was like Dodds, I'd be going and having a look at 2 games since Christmas. One would be Leyton Orient, and one would be Peterborough. And obviously, Peterborough did beat us and we beat Orient. But I think if you're going to go for us, you've got to go man for man. You've got to spread the pitch. You've got to really try and win all of your individual battles and open that game up in the middle of the park. Because if you allow Coventry to sit and dictate, and you allow the likes of Godden and Berry, if he's available, to pick up little pockets and find bits of space, and then TC to find little pockets as well to go and beat a man, then you're going to struggle to contain that across 90 minutes. So you think you really do have to come out and try and impose yourself on us. Obviously, that comes with a lot of risks because you can get picked off. But for them, I think that they have been in such a difficult position. He will be very more minded, I think, to play it, slightly safe, and let's make sure that we get through to half time, not conceding. Let's build the confidence over the 2 legs and try and sort of nick a result, and then go into the final, which is anyone's game, because they are just in such a difficult position at the minute. They know as well as a club. There's quite a lot riding on this, because I don't see the likes of Kone being there next season if they don't go up, and there's probably more than that they'll lose, having had such a good sort of run over the course of this season. So how are they going to replace that caliber of player in the summer? It's going to be a very tricky thing to do. So again, I think a lot of the players in that dressing room will be looking around saying, well, how are we going to do this next season? We don't do it this time. So you have the double-edged sword of it mattering twice as much. And I think we'll be surprised at how cagey it will be at first. And then over the course of 90 minutes, the one thing that we do have is a very, very fit and athletic squad. And so if it is an emotional, if it is a wearing physical game, then we should come on a lot stronger in the back end. I think that'll be the last 30 minutes will be really where I'm looking for us to sort of go and win that game and make the difference, because I just don't see it being open enough at the start, even though if I was Dodds, that's exactly what I would do to us.
Yeah, I mean, Peterborough, this is Paul's says Peterborough had an aggressive and quick front line, which Wycombe don't have. They play attritional football, which Jones knows how to deal with. Alex says our strongest 11 with Small and Berry back would beat any League One team in the last 5 years, bar Ipswich. And then we know how important it is. A big part in this tie will be which players we have available. Now, of course, over the last few weeks, we've seen the likes of Berry, Lloyd Jones, we've seen Thierry Small, we've seen various players missing at times. So the question on everybody's lips is who's going to be back in time for Sunday. And the answer from Nathan Jones is a resounding nothing. I'm going to tell you. This is what he had to say to Richard.
Asked at the end of the week about injuries, selection and stuff. I wanted to ask you more generally. You don't tend to like to discuss players being in or out, and I know the reasons why, but I'm asking you because that's part of it, isn't it? I'm guessing why give opposition or anyone information which can be used to their advantage? Is that fair to say, or not? Or is
absolutely.
It,
I mean, I there's no secret to how we go about and do our work and everything. I think we're fairly consistent in the things that we do. But for me, my team and the state of how we train and everything is a personal thing, and sometimes fans get frustrated because they want to know. We live in a world and a society where information is readily available, information is key, and everyone wants it and stuff, and everyone's prepared to do anything for it. If there's one thing with us, we like to keep our cards close to our chest, not because we're hiding anything, but because that's the way we like to do business.
So that's the team news. I don't know, basically, Ben. The players we have been missing then. So like I say, Lloyd Jones, we know he can play with injections because he has been doing so, and then he tried to do so at Wrexham though, and it didn't exactly go to plan. He was clearly struggling in that game. Thierry Small, no idea what sort of shape he's in. Luke Berry, no idea what sort of shape he's in. They could all play on Sunday. They could never play football again for all we know with what Jones is telling us. I mean, first things first, how do we deal without them if that is the case? Because if that, because there's no reruns. If we can't play them, then we're going to have to learn how to win this game without them.
Yeah, and that's a tricky point, I think, because without Lloyd, obviously we've seen Alex Mitchell come in on Saturday and have a good game after a shaky start, gets a goal and then grew into the game and got some confidence behind him, which was crucial. You obviously had Gilbert having a good game that plays in a similar role to Berry. But as I said a couple of weeks ago, we just don't have a like-for-like replacement for Thierry. We saw that in the Wrexham game with Tenai getting in a really good position and decent shot, keeper saved it. I'm not saying Thierry would score that, but when you have two ball carriers on either side, i.e. TC and Thierry, who take the ball with them and take us up the pitch and get throw-ons, and you have Josh Edwards then coming down, taking long throw-ons, and that brings a different aspect to our game, and just running at defenders, making them scared, it really helps us, and you have a balance on both sides. Now, without Thierry, you then run the risk of it all being piled on TC, them doubling up on him, and us not having that balance in the team. So that has obviously been a struggle for us when he's not played. You think of the Lincoln home game when Karoy played in that position. You think of Tenai playing in that position. That would be the major thing for me if he wasn't. But still, I mean, look at the job Lloyd Jones did against Kone in that 4-0 game. He played excellent. He scored a goal. Luke Berry scored a goal against Wycombe in the last game. So these are crucial players for us. Now, does Nathan think ahead and think, well, do we save them for the second leg? Do we save them for Wembley even? You don't know. He can know, and the physio team know what the injuries are like. I mean, it wasn't like he rested them because they're tired. As we know, Lloyd's been having injections to play. Luke come off against Wycombe with suspected cramp, but obviously there was more to that. And Thierry, they came off looking okay, but we just don't know. So, yeah, that would be my biggest thing. If Thierry's missing, I do think we do lose a lot of the way we play, whereas you can fit in two in the same roles in the other two.
Yeah, I mean, a couple of people saying they'd like to see Gilbert have a go. Paul saying that he thinks Watson has done well. He's not as good as Small, but he's physical and personally wouldn't have too much worry if he's there. Jake says, I'd honestly feel comfortable having Mitchell as right centre-back and Kane out wide if Small isn't fit. Gilbert in midfield with Doc and with Coventry. Plenty of options there. Right, we're going to have a break. When we come back, we're going to learn a little bit more about this Wycombe Wanderers side that we're going to face over the weekend.
PSF Steel Limited is a trade supplier of steel fabrication and erection services to the new build, construction and refurbishment market in southern England. With their unrivaled depth of experience, they excel at providing their customers with high quality and cost-effective steel fabrication solutions. Their customers include national and regional house builders such as Barratt Homes, Bellway Homes, the Vistry Group and Taylor Wimpey. They pride themselves on their service-based ethos and commitment to customer service excellence, which includes full technical backup and on-site services and support. If you would like more information, go to www.psfsteel.co.uk. That's www.psfsteel.co.uk.
Hello, fellow addicts. I'm so excited to tell you all about our micropub, the River Ale House. The River Ale House is based in East Greenwich. It has 6 Pub of the Year awards, an ever-changing selection of amazing beer, It's owned by Charlton fans, walkable to the ground in just 20 minutes with buses that go direct to the Valley too. If your matchday routine includes a drink with your friends, you must join your fellow addicts in the river. See you soon.
Right, welcome back to Charlton Live. This is the big match preview ahead of the first leg of the semi-finals of the playoffs. We are heading to Adams Park to take on Wycombe Wanderers on Sunday, 6:30 p.m. Kickoff. We'll have the game in full on BBC Radio London on digital live commentary. If you want to join us on there, it'll be on TV as well, of course, and Greg and Tel will be there. There'll be loads of ways to follow the game. I wanted to know a little bit more about the side we're about to face, Wycombe Wanderers. So I caught up with a friend of the show, James Richens, from the Bucks Free Press. And this is what he had to tell us ahead of the trip to Adams Park. I'd like to say that we're joined by James Richens from the Bucks Free Press ahead of the playoff clash between the Addicts and Wycombe Wanderers first leg coming up this weekend. James, absolute pleasure to have you on. And I'm not just saying that, and this will sound awful, but because obviously I like you as a journalist and you're very good at what you do, but also because you cover Wycombe Wanderers, and therefore it means that Charlton are playing Wycombe in the playoffs, which is exactly what all the Charlton fans wanted, you know, if we're being blunt. How are things feeling at Adams Park ahead of this playoff tie? Because I guess if I'd asked you that question a few months ago, there would have been a very different feeling around the place.
Well, yeah, I mean, I think a few months ago, the thought of the playoffs would have been laughable, to be honest, with where Wycombe were in a table. Honestly, it's a really odd situation to be in. Being in the playoffs is a privilege, isn't it? And it's a lottery. You don't really know what's going to happen. But for Wycombe, it depends which way you look at it. You look at it from the perspective that Wycombe were in the top two for the vast majority of the season, blowing teams away, and then we've hit the worst run of form that we've had all season at the worst possible time, and we've gone from second to fifth. But then the other positive is that the other perspective, I should say, is looking at the positive side, which is we've seen many teams go into the playoffs on a terrible run of form, and they've managed to do the business and get themselves promoted. The most obvious example in recent memory was Sheffield Wednesday in this division, where they were top of the table, absolutely flew, stumbled at the worst moment, and they eventually won the playoffs in dramatic fashion. So it depends on who you ask. There is a buzz around High Wycombe as a town. Lots of businesses are getting behind the team. Local MPs doing her bit to try and spread support. So it really does depend on who you ask. But if you're looking at form, yes, everyone wanted to play Wycombe because Wycombe are going into the playoffs with 3 defeats from 3, and that's what's really cost them a place in the automatics. So It's going to be very interesting.
And again, those 3 defeats, obviously, all against the sides also in the playoffs with Wycombe. And can you put your finger on what on earth happened? Because, you know, when the Chairboys rocked up to the Valley just after Christmas, obviously Charlton ended up winning that game, but that was a first defeat in 19 for Wycombe at that point. They'd lost the first 2 games of the season and then went, 19 unbeaten, winning the vast majority of those games as well. But I mean, since then, it feels like they've been so hit and miss since then. You know, those 3 defeats to win the season. It feels like there's just a vulnerability about Wycombe at the minute. I mean, what on earth changed? Was it just as simple as the manager leaving?
No, I wouldn't say that, because even after the Charlton game, which obviously ended the 19-game unbeaten run, in the time that Bloomfield left, that start of January period, Wycombe started to hit a bit of a wobble, which, to be fair, was expected. You've just got 19 games without defeat, and there were a few draws in that time. It wasn't going to last forever. And before Bloomfield left, we did draw 1-1 at home to Blackpool, where Blackpool scored a last-minute equaliser. And then Wycombe lost to Huddersfield midweek, a couple of days after that. So it wasn't as if Mike Dodd has come in, it's all been disastrous. It's just been the case of injuries haven't really helped. Mike Dodd's style of play is very different to how Matt Bloomfield plays. I mean, Matt Bloomfield when he was there at the start of the season, he wanted to play with freedom. He was very dynamic in the way Wycombe went forward, and that was evidently clear with the amount of goals we were scoring. I mean, to go 3-0 up inside 15 minutes away at Stockport, and Wycombe could have easily scored about 12 in that first half. Honestly, it did not look like they were going to stop scoring. Mike Dodd has come in, and he's more defensive looking manager. You look at Wycombe, and Will Norris, Wycombe's new goalkeeper, has kept numerous clean sheets in the time he's been at the club. So two different strengths, but then Wycombe going forward just don't look like a side able to score goals. That's been the worry. Since Mike Dodds has taken over, Wycombe, I think, about 18 games, and in that time they've only scored 3 goals in the first half, which is an incredible stat to look at, considering how free-flowing Wycombe were earlier on in the season. So I think when Charlton rocked up on Easter Monday, everyone at Wycombe was feeling very confident. Wycombe had just gone away to Bolton on Good Friday, 1-2-0, really played them off the park, and going into the Easter Monday game being second in the table. And then as soon as the first goal went in, Wycombe just shrunk. Wycombe completely shrunk. And I think that was pretty much the tale of the next 2 games as well. Wycombe, I can't even remember who they played after. Oh, Leyton Orient, that was it. Leyton Orient didn't even look like scoring in the first half. Really poor. They go 1-0 up. They sat back. Wycombe did not look dangerous at all. And albeit Wycombe went 1-0 up against Stockport, we missed a penalty in the second half. And then from that, Stockport scored 3 goals and were very comfortable. So it's almost as if one negative is going to cause a chain reaction. But the playoffs are completely different to the league. These are cup games. Form goes out the window in the playoffs as we've seen. And one thing Wycombe are very good at is galvanising the fans. And Adams Park, as you know from your previous experiences there, can be a real horrible place to go to. So in a way, Wycombe have to try and find the Wycombe of old, do what they've done in the playoffs before to really try and get a result against Charlton. Because of all due respect, I think Charlton were the one team that nobody wanted to play, because the form you're on, excluding the Wrexham defeat, you've been absolutely flying.
Yeah, you mentioned obviously our visit to Adams Park just over a couple of weeks ago now on Easter Monday. I mean, how much is that at the forefront of the minds of the supporters, the fact that Charlton came and did a real number on Wycombe a few weeks ago and beat them very comfortably? I mean, has that been a big part of the conversation over the last few weeks, about how the fact that they're going to have to play us again and we've just come to Adams Park and done that to you?
Yeah, I think a lot of Wycombe fans, they're not naive to it. It's still very relatively fresh in the mind. Charlton just absolutely bossed Wycombe, and I think the support from the Charlton fans really helped. It was almost as if Wycombe shrunk at the first time when the first goal went in. Wycombe just couldn't get going, and obviously with that being a couple of weeks ago, that's still very fresh in people's minds. And you look at Charlton's form, one of the most formed teams outside Birmingham and Wrexham in the league. So it's going to be on the minds, but that's in the past. You can't take that into a playoff semi-final because the stakes are so high. It's a clean slate. You got to from Wycombe perspective, we've got to forget about that and just do the business on Sunday night at Adams Park and forget about Charlton doing the double over Wycombe this season.
You mentioned obviously the new manager Mike Dodds. I mean, to be quite frank, obviously I get the majority of this from social media, which is where I'm only really going to read Wycombe fans' opinions, but I get the impression he's not been massively popular with the fan base. Is that fair?
It depends who you ask, really. I mean, I've had several chats with Mike Dodds, and he's a lovely guy. He's very talkative, and especially to us anyway. But the style of football he's got is very different to Matt Bloomfield's style of football, as I said earlier. With Bloomfield, he was very much go forward, put bodies on, send everyone up. Shows why Wycombe was scoring goals for fun. I think the first game Wycombe had this season where they didn't score in the league was in December, literally the game before Christmas, a 0-0 draw against Bolton. Since then, I think Wycombe went 20 games in a row where they scored. Mike Dodds has come in, and defensively, Wycombe, up until the last 3 games, have been very good, defensively sound. I think Will Norris kept 7 clean sheets in 15 games at one point, which is an incredible record for a goalkeeper that's just signed. But in the last 3 games, there's been, from my perspective anyway, from watching it, there's been no plan B, really. It's almost as if we're going to continue to do the same thing when we go 1-0 down, and it just hasn't worked. So I think from a Wycombe perspective, it will be good to have a look at what Mike Dodds what else he's got in his locker, because Charlton are going to be going into this game full of beans after doing the double over Wycombe this season. And with Dodds. It's still very early days in his reign as Wycombe's manager. I mean, he's only been there since the start of February. He's only been there 3 months. And this is his first ever full head coach role, excluding a few interim spells at Sunderland. So he really does need time. It'll be too callous and unfair to say, oh, he's done a terrible job or he's done a fantastic job so early on. But up until the last 3 games, Wycombe had looked okay, didn't look great, didn't look awful, but the last 3 games have really sort of set the tone, if you will. But hopefully that could be rectified when the playoffs come on Sunday, because it'll be a disaster if we, do what Milton Keynes did last year and lose 8-1 on aggregate or something like that. It'll make things even worse. So there's a real opportunity for Mike Dodds and the Wycombe players to right a few wrongs and just go into this with a clean mind.
What can you tell us about team news? So, I mean, we've seen over the last few days, Josh Scowen's going to be out for a long time, and Sam Vokes sounds like broke his arm against Stockport. I mean, are there any more key men that could be unavailable for Wycombe as we go into this tie?
Not that I'm aware of. I mean, Dan Harvey, left back, he hasn't played since the 1-0 defeat against Birmingham on March the 1st. He injured his knee. We've been told he'll be back for pre-season, so the likelihood of him being included in the playoffs is very, very unlikely. But other than that, I can't think of anyone else really. Wycombe have pretty much got a fully fit squad, excluding Scowen, Vokes, and Harvey. So it will be interesting to see the lineup that he goes with Mike Dodds, because some things needs to change. Wycombe signed numerous players in the January transfer window. I think they signed something like 15 to 20 players. I lost count. Honestly, they signed so many, and some of them have only had a handful of minutes here or there. So it would be good to see some of those faces be included in the squad, because Wycombe need to do something different to try and get past Charlton in the playoffs. Yeah,
and just finally then, who are the key men? So I'm looking at even Richard Kone, who hasn't scored for almost a couple of months now. I think no goals in his last 8 or so. Gareth McCleary, I always fear. I've always loved him as a player ever since his Bromley days. But I mean, who else is up there? Are those two the key men that could swing this tie in Wycombe's favour?
Oh, well, here's hoping. I mean, Richard Kone, I mean, he's won the League One Player and Young Player of the Season award. He hasn't, as you said, he hasn't scored since I believe since the 3-2 win at Rotherham, and that was in the middle of March. So he's very much due a goal. Gareth McCleary, everyone loves Gareth McCleary at Wycombe, evergreen player. But I would say the main players to look out for, in my opinion, one of them will be Xavier Simons on loan from Hull City. He came in as the Aaron Morley replacement, and other than his red card against Birmingham a couple of months ago, he hasn't really put anything wrong, I would say. So I would say he's one to look out for. I think Alex Lowry, who Wycombe signed on a permanent deal from Rangers, he's only played a few games here and there, but every time he's got the ball, he just looks so free. He's a real flair player. He loves to... He's the sort of player that you would hate to play against, because he'll put the ball through your legs 3 or 4 times and you'll hate it. So he's one to look out for. Adam Reach, a very good player at EFL level, Championship League One player. He's one to look out for. And Cameron Humphreys as well, if he's fit. So Cameron Humphreys on loan from Ipswich Town has been absolutely fantastic this season. He missed the last game as a precaution, so here's hoping he'll be, from Wycombe perspective anyway, he'll be able to be included. So Wycombe have got a real array of players, and a lot of fans are hoping that our record signing, Magnus Vestergaard, who was signed in January, will be able to play. He's a central midfield player. Wycombe spent nearly just short of £1 million for him, which is a huge amount of money for Wycombe Wanderers, and he's very much a Josh Scowen-like player. So here's hoping this will be Vestergaard's chance to show what he can do. He's only played a handful of games since joining, and I don't think he started at all. He's only played literally 5 to 10 minutes per game. So it'll be a good opportunity for him to really show what he can do if given the chance.
There we go. That was me speaking to James during the week about Wycombe Wanderers, and he painted quite a sorry picture about how it's gone over the last few weeks, Ben. I mean, again, people saying that first goal, I just think it's going to be so important, because you can sense that vulnerability about them. You can sense it when they concede a goal over the last few weeks. They haven't really bounced back from it. Leyton Orient game, James said they didn't really have enough chances. Obviously, we saw what happened when we went there Easter Monday. by all accounts, could have gone 2 up against Stockport with that missed penalty. But as soon as one went in, they just fell apart again. There's clearly pressure on the manager. I mean, Timsy said in the chat he wondered if Dodds has to win this semi-final to keep his job. I mean, we don't know if it's got to that stage yet. And, Jake and Phil are both sort of hinting at we can't be overconfident. We can't. I mean, the players certainly can't go in with that mindset. But me as a fan, and I'm not like this normally, I am going in with that. I've been telling people this week, like, I really make a strong favourites. I mean, this is playoffs and anything can happen, but I really feel like they're there for the taking if we turn up on the day.
I've been thinking all week, and I think you can have that feeling in your head where you go, well, Wycombe will want revenge for that game, and they'll want to really avenge it. And Dodd's interview afterwards, where he come out with some silly things, didn't he, where he said that he didn't think we kind of deserved it, the goals weren't that great, etc. Will they come out and be all gunning for us? But you can also think, do we prey on their vulnerabilities, such as Norris looking so nervous when he got the ball at his feet, and our high press just really forced him into mistakes? Do we look at that and think, yeah, we gain confidence of that? Do we, after the first 10, 15, 20 minutes of play and it might have settled down and no goals, do we keep gaining confidence from that? You'd like to think so, because we went into that game on Easter Monday full of confidence and being kind of the underdog because we were behind them. And now it has kind of spun round in a way because of their form and us being solid in there for a while now. Does it look like now we're the favourites? Well, yeah, let's see how we react to that. But yeah, I'd like to think that instead of actually thinking, they'll try and get revenge because we beat them twice this season, especially beating them 4-0, that we actually think, okay, well, let's see how the first few minutes go and then try and prey on those vulnerabilities that got us our goals against them in the first leg, in the last game, sorry. So, yeah, I think that's kind of the mentality we've got to go with. We know they got threats, but we've just shown their weaknesses up in the limelight. Now, can we do it again?
Yeah, Ed's saying, I hope it's damp again for Norris. I mean, that was, of all the things that they've happened, I mean, like the fact that a goalkeeper that's had such bad luck against us over the course of the years that we've actually given him a nickname who then does that against us. I mean, he'll be desperate not to make a mistake. The fact that there is this vulnerability about him, Joe. I mean, if we can play on that, I think that's going to be massive. It's just turning. I was looking at the stats earlier. Wycombe spent about, I think, 6 or 7 weeks in first position in the table this league, and they spent, I'd guess, maybe 2/3 of the table in the top 2. I mean, they will feel massively like they've thrown it away. Where we have just been a completely different story. I might play a little clip from Nathan Jones shortly about the turnaround we've seen this season, and the season we've had has been. It's built up perfectly for a team that's got into the playoffs because we've been so good second half of the season.
Yeah, I mean, they are going to be vulnerable, and we are on such a good run of form, and a bit like the cricket, I think could be high time for a little bit of sledging, and a few little comments here as you're walking back to halfway if you get a goal early, especially if the fact that they're saying don't score in the first half and you don't really create that many chances. If you get a couple of goals up, then the players themselves, for Wycombe, we're going to be thinking, well, how are we going to come back from here? Kone isn't scoring, and it plays on your mind, doesn't it? I think if you're playing a game and you know that there's no goals really coming from up top, it puts a lot of pressure on the defence to keep a clean sheet for you to get anything out of the game. So it's going to be a tricky one, I think, for them to manage emotionally. And I want to see that bit of edge, really, that, if Berry's on there, the likes of Berry just whispering in ears and Godden whispering in ears, sort of saying, well, going to fall apart again. This could be another 4-0. That'd be the kind of attitude and swagger I think that we need to take into the game and use all of those horrible little tactics to get that advantage. But, in theory, turn up 7 or 8 shots in the first half at the near post, and go in 6-0 up, and then we'll build from there. But you're going into it, and I don't think it is arrogance. I think we're confident because we are in such a good place, and I think that they won't be confident because they're in such a bad place, and that is just natural for all of us to be. And even if it doesn't go right, I think the feeling in the camp in Charlton will be that we're going to come back stronger again next season potentially, and it's not the end of the world. Whereas I don't think they'll have that feeling at Wycombe.
Right, well, as I've mentioned quite a few times on the show over the course of the year, this has certainly been one of the most remarkable seasons I've ever seen in terms of the change from where we were sort of around Christmas time to where we have ended. Now, Nathan Jones was asked about that by Richard Corley today, asked first up how you sort of manage with the pressure of dealing with that low point earlier on in the season.
It helps. I've had some tough jobs. To be fair, every job I've had is tough because every job I came into, those teams were struggling. I didn't, with the greatest respect, I left Luton twice, but I left them in the most wonderful position that they had momentum, they had the best squad, they had a structure, they had everything. That doesn't necessarily happen. The clubs I'd gone into had been clubs that were severely underperforming. When I went into Luton on both occasions, they were underperforming. So I've had tough jobs, so you learn, you evaluate, and I don't want too many learning curves because it means I keep losing my job, but I have done that. And the big turning points for me was, we went to Bristol Rovers and we were poor on the night. We finished strongly, and another 5 minutes we could have got something from the game, but the game is 90 minutes. So, and then we played Birmingham on the Saturday, and you'd have thought these are in real trouble. We made sane decisions. We went man for man. We were really bold and had one of our best performances and one of our best wins. So that took that. Then after the Crawley and the Leyton Orient, we had to make sure that we got points and just kept in it until we got all our players back, because we had a lot of injuries in the early part of the season, and we did, and we managed to just batten down the hatches. We managed to show a real good level of consistency to get points, and then once we got everyone back, once we really started to gather momentum, then we were the team that we are now, and that's what I was really pleased at. And it's not just managers but staff, and didn't panic, we didn't fear, we had a good board that not trigger happy and things, and I think that's why we see the benefits now.
I was going to ask you about that because you mentioned about the board and them not maybe getting a trigger finger at certain points. It happens at football clubs, doesn't it? But I'm not saying it deserves to happen at all, obviously not, but in terms of the general thought process, do you need assurances at that point? Are you chatting to people to see what they think or not?
What I do is I make sure that the board and the people I report to see the work that we do. So when we go through tough points, they see the work we do, they see the hours we do, they see the quality of the work we do, they see how we speak, how we debrief, how we do all these things. And then they go, okay, well, I believe they're going to come through this. If it's sporadic work and we're only spending 3-4 hours a day here, and I was, flitting back and forth places and fly by night, then that's when alarm bells ring. But I don't think alarm bells have rung. I think I have sane conversations with the owners and the decision makers of the football club. I've put out a plan for them of what can happen and stuff. And then even when we're doing well, they ask me what we wanted in the window. What do you want? Are we as good as we think we are? I said, yeah, it's my job to get the best out of these. I don't just want players. So little things like that help us, to understand each other, to build a relationship. And now we're in a really good position. So if I do ask them for something, they'll know it comes from a good place.
There we go. That's Nathan Jones speaking about dealing with the pressure that he's been through this season and using his experience to get through some of the more difficult times this year. I mean, it's set up for Nathan. I mean, he is a man for the big occasion. You get the impression, Ben. And well, what I would give to see that man knee sliding all the way down the side of the Adams Park pitch once more on Sunday.
Oh, do you know what I was thinking then when Jacko ran down the pitch at Wembley when jumped on Johnny Williams' back when we got that winner? Yeah, my mind's already going mad. But yeah, it's nice to hear. I think he's just he was quite calm in that interview. He wasn't racing ahead of himself because, yeah, look, there were times of this season where we couldn't see anything. And yeah, look, us fans aren't privy to what happens behind the scenes, the training ground, what the players are saying, what the training's like. And to have turned it round and the board to have that confidence in him is brilliant because look at how many managerial changes you do see over the course of a season. And we've just needed that consistency and that continuity of the same manager, not having to change 15 players in the summer, doing a few tweaks in January. It's just gone exceptionally well, hasn't it? And he's done a great job, especially with that defence. I mean, wow, that's what he should get a credit for this season, the defence, the clean sheets we've kept. And that is one big positive we can take going into these playoffs, is that defence and the clean sheets, and something we can hold on to. So, yeah, he feels confident and rightly so. And he's a passionate guy. And, yeah, I really think that's a big plus for us with the manager we've got compared to the manager Wycombe have got.
Yeah, and all hell that Lou says, I'd love to see Nathan Nee sliding at Wembley. What an actor that guy is, in reference to those comments from Mickey Apples last season. Right, Brad has got a good idea. Says you need to get a big print on a flag of the graph to go across the Wembley seats. Yeah, Alex says sack the Tim Pot Tifo from the last game and get a picture of Louis in the graph. Isaac wants it as well. Ian wants it as well. I mean, definitely be better than that Arsenal one they had. But yeah, I think that's a great idea. Right, we've run out of time on this week's big match preview, a preview of the first leg of the playoff semi-final away to Wycombe Wanderers this Sunday. We're going to be back on Monday night. So the game's on Sunday. So we're going to come back on Monday night to look back at that first leg and preview the second leg, which will, of course, be on next Thursday, which means our game looking back at the second leg, where hopefully we'll be talking about going to Wembley, or it could be our last show of the season if everything goes horribly wrong, will be next Friday. So we're going to be back with you on Monday evening to look back at the first leg, Friday evening to look back at the second leg. We'll see if there's going to be another show after that one as well. Fingers crossed there will be. Right, massive thanks to everyone who's joined us live on YouTube this evening. Don't forget, check out our merch store, charltonlive.etsy.com, so you can get your Charlton Live mugs in time for the playoffs. Especially if you're watching at home, you need to drink out of a lucky Charlton Live mug when you're watching it. And make sure you subscribe to our YouTube channel. There's still plenty more shows to come this season. Hopefully, subscribe wherever you see the pod on any podcast app as well. Ben and Joe, an absolute pleasure, and really enjoyed your company this evening.
Cheers, guys.
Thank you very much.
Lovely stuff. Right, I'm Louis Mendes. This has been Charlton Live, sponsored by PSF Steel Limited. We'll be back then on Monday evening where we look back at the first leg. I look forward to seeing you, as many of you as possible, at Adams Park on Sunday. We shall see you then.